just putting the finishing touches on this owl painting I started quite a few months ago. When you run an organic farm, there's not a lot of time for diversions. Sometimes I wonder how I ended up with 3 kids. Hi, I'm Antony John and welcome to the Manic Organic. Before I was an organic farmer, I was a painter. But let's face it, who wants to spend big bucks to have a John in their living room? And before that, I was a wildlife biologist. Today we're going to indulge in all my passions. We're going to go bird watching, we're going to harvest some vegetables from the garden, and later on we're going to a country restaurant down the road to make a fabulous dish of pickerel and tomatillo sauce, fingerling potatoes, and wilted rainbow chard. Oh, it's going to be great. Also, I hope to finish this painting.
One of the benefits of organic farming is that it requires more labor, which creates more jobs and helps the local economy. I guess you could say these are my salad days.
Do you know there are over 5,000 varieties of potatoes available worldwide, but there are only 4 varieties grown commercially? Genetic diversity, you've got to celebrate it. I've got some varieties here that we grow on our farm. You'll hardly ever see these guys in the grocery store because they don't yield as much. Now, some of my favorites here, we've got this Peruvian all blue. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? We've got Blossom, a big fingerling, and it's got a lovely little sort of a rosy hint to the skin. Beautiful pink mashed potatoes from this one. And of course the fingerlings, like this Russian banana, German fingerling, or rose fin apple. They're all great tasting potatoes, good for boiling. They've got a firm, waxy flesh in them, and they're good for roasting as well. So potatoes, great example of genetic diversity, colors, range of flavors and uses. Tomatillos, another example.
A tasty citrusy cousin of the tomato.
And these Rainbow Lights chard. All 3 are great examples of genetic diversity and why we should celebrate and enhance it. And we're going to be using all 3 ingredients in a great meal as well. Now I'm going to check on the rest of my potato crop.
In order to harvest potatoes, you've got to plant them first, and here's how you do it.
I think potatoes are a great thing for the home gardener to grow organically because there's such a wide range of these heirloom varieties available, and you're never going to find these in a grocery store. And there's blues, reds, yellows. There's a huge kaleidoscope of colors, flavors, and shapes. Now, a little primer on planting potatoes. They all have eyes on them. They're little crescents. This is where the buds form from your seed potato. When you put it in the ground, the sprouts will come up from the eyes. You don't have to use the whole potato when you're planting. You can cut it up into sections. Just make sure it's got about 3 or 4 eyes on it. You can get probably 3 good-sized seed potatoes from a potato this big. I've got about 4 acres to plant out, so it gets a little time-consuming with the knife. I use this 1800s potato cutter to do the job for me. It's a little something out of the French Revolution, I think. You put the fingerling potato in, and off with their heads. And that's the rewarding thing about potatoes. One potato, you get 4 or 5 different seed potatoes from it, and then each of those seed potatoes will give you, in a good year, 2 pounds of potatoes.
Plant your spuds about 1 foot apart and 2 inches deep. Cover them only slightly because they sprout faster in warm surface soil.
So go out and get some heirloom varieties today.
Seniority rules on our farm. My dad gets to drive the Kubota, while I bust my hump looking for potatoes in the field. Oh, my back. Thanks, Dad.
Different potato varieties have different climate requirements. This year we had extreme drought followed by 1 rainstorm that dumped 5 inches of rain in 24 hours on our fields. Not good for the crops. And with global warming, we found more and more extremes of weather, such as drought. That means more stress on the potatoes.
This year it looked like our major crop in the potato row was weeds. 1 potato, 2 potato.
Now these fingerling potatoes here look nice and cute, but I'm not too happy because there should be about 4 times this size. The low-lying part of our field got flooded out by a storm this year. We lost that part of the crop. And The higher end of the field got drought this year. We lost that part of the crop. Overall, 25% of what I should be getting out of my fields. With all the 9 varieties of potato that we grow, 8 of them didn't do well at all this year. But one of the varieties came through with flying colors. It's called Blossom, and it matures later than the other potatoes, so it grew in the cooler days and nights of fall. And, well, score 1 for genetic diversity, I think. I feel like I'm auditioning for a fireman's calendar here.
Next, I have to harvest some tomatillos for the sauce. Then pick some rainbow chard and go birdwatching with my good buddy Phil.
Making compost is a big part of an organic farm's operation. And if my ears and nose are correct, the first step in our compost making operation has just arrived by dump truck. Horse pucky. Oh, I'm very excited because I've just taken delivery of 50 tons of horse manure. It's actually racehorse manure. It comes from a guy just down the road who raises them. And my dad claims that racehorse manure gets your plants off to a faster start. I'm turning it over right now to get oxygen into it. That's why you see the steam coming off it. What you're doing now is covering the green matter over. You want to bury the leafy stuff, put lots of soil over top of it so that the bacteria and microorganisms start working in the darkness. These are the guys you want to look for in your compost pile. These are red wigglers. They're a type of earthworm that love to feed on organic matter and break it down for the plants. Good quality compost really doesn't smell. It'll almost smell kind of sweet like dirt, but it shouldn't have a strong or a sour smell at all. If it is, you're probably not getting enough oxygen into it, so keep turning it over, maybe once a week, once every couple of days if you have a small enough plot. You actually should feel some heat coming out of your compost pile if it's working properly. Yeah, you can feel it heating up. And that means that the nutrients are getting broken down properly and the carbon's being broken down into a form that your plants will use in the garden. It's good to have friends when you're turning a compost pile over. My chickens actually move a lot of soil in a day, rooting through it, looking for worms and grubs and insects. And they help keep that soil oxygenated. So what's going on in the coop today, hen? Really? And then what? And how'd she take that? Oh, wow. You better tell her to mind her own P's and Q's, I think, eh? Okay, you get started on the top, and I'll work on the bottom. Fair enough? Okay.
We've got lumps of it around the back.
Well, next up is the tomato patch, and I think I'd better get cleaned up for that.
These are the wild cousins of the potato. They're called tomatillos, and like the potato, they originated in South Central America thousands and thousands of years ago. And to me, they represent a really good example of genetic diversity. They're not a very popular plant commercially. You see them in some of the specialty stores, but not everywhere. So the conventional breeding programs haven't really gotten a hold of these guys yet. And what these programs tend to do is breed the diversity out of a plant and breed uniformity into it. As I walk through these tomatillo plants, some of them will have large fruit, some of them will have small fruit. different plant sizes. And this is an adaptation. This variation comes into play if you've got a weather stress that happens on the plants. Some of them will be better suited to cope with that stress than others, and that ensures the survival of the species. That variation is a built-in safeguard against the unpredictability of nature.
Tomatillos are a main ingredient in South American salsas. They have a citrusy, zesty flavor that marries well with fish and meat. It's one of the few vegetables that comes gift-wrapped. Just like tomatoes, tomatillos need bees to pollinate them. Try growing tomatillos yourself. They're easy to grow organically.
Tomatillos are really productive plants. Each plant will give you lots and lots of these Chinese lantern type fruits. And this is what we're looking for when we're picking them. They're going to ripen from the bottom of the plant up to the top. So check the bottoms first. Now, I give each one of these a little squeeze. You're feeling for fullness in the paper. And this is a tomatillo at its peak of ripeness. You can see it split the paper husk. That's the best time to pick them. And as they become more and more ripe, they get more and more yellow like this, and the flavor mellows as well. So when you're cooking with tomatillos, it's nice to have a mix of the really vibrant, citrusy, dark green to light green ones, and a mix of the very mellow yellow ones. Hey, somebody should write a song about that.
From the greens and mellow yellows of the tomatillos, it's over to the multicolored hues of rainbow chard. They're really psychedelic now.
Beautiful rainbow chard. It's got a mild flavor, a lot like spinach, except it takes a little bit more cooking than spinach will. It'll stand up to the heat a bit better, but it's just a great vegetable to use.
Rainbow chard is an heirloom variety, meaning it was developed generations ago. One seed packet will literally give you a rainbow of colors. We've got geese in the fields, a wolf in the kitchen, and tomatillos in the pan. Bueno.
Nothing unusual anyway.
No. We're here at Wildwood, debating furiously the identification of the birds we're seeing as usual. I'm seeing greater yellowlegs down there, of course.
It's a big raptor flying right to left, and at first we thought it was a red-tailed, but it's not flying in the right way. It's
absolutely undeniable. And the rest of these are ringbill gulls.
It could be one of a number of things.
The drained flats of Wildwood Lake is a favorite spot for birdwatching with my mate Bill Vousden.
Remember the one time we saw a pelican here?
Yeah, it's good.
That was something else.
I've seen spoonbills here as well.
You lying bugger.
Have I?
You lying bugger.
Well, I've seen them somewhere.
Yeah, Florida, in a museum.
Florida, yeah. Florida.
So, fancy spot of lunch at Wolfie's then, man?
Sounds great.
Good.
Brilliant.
See what Chris has got cooking.
Yeah. He's English, isn't he?
The accent seems to indicate that, yeah. Okay, we just saw some fantastic birds at Wildwood with Phil and I. We worked up a big appetite, ready for a great meal here with my friend Chris Wolf. His restaurant Wolfie's at Wildwood is within a stone's throw of the lake that we were at today. And Chris is going to show us how to make this sauce today. Tomatillo sauce with pan-roasted pickerel and fingerling potatoes and wilted chard. So Chris, why don't you tell us about the peppers we're going to use in this tomatillo sauce?
We've got some smoked poblano peppers, which are very mild, very fragrant, not spicy at all. You don't want to get the impression that all peppers are spicy.
And the star of the sauce are these, the tomatillos. They're very, very high in acid. We're gonna blacken them in a cast iron skillet. That mellows the flavor a little bit and puts a little bit of nice smokiness to them. So I'm gonna get started taking the husks off these first. And Chris, you're gonna get to work on an onion, I guess, and we'll have a race. Okay. So we want about 1 kilo of these tomatillos, huh, for the sauce?
Yep.
Okay, ready to go to the stove.
In you go. Beautiful. What we want to do is blacken them evenly all over, not too quickly. We're going to turn down heat just a tad.
They're happy, they're dancing.
They sure are. And we're going to put the onions in the back here, my man. Nice and easy. Nice colour. Okay, well these look like they're ready, Anthony. So
Okay.
put them into the food processor. Over here.
All right. And I'll get you the rest of the ingredients here.
Yeah.
These ingredients, which we prep beforehand, will round out our tomatillo sauce.
Okay, I'll take these out and
Yeah, just give them a little bit of a squeeze. That's fine. Yeah.
put them into the chopper.
Yeah.
And everything else goes into?
Yep. We can add our tomatillos.
Okay.
You can scrape those in if you like. Beautiful. Don't they have a lovely flavour,
Yeah.
lovely smell?
Yeah,
Beautiful.
sort of a toasty smell
Yeah,
right now. I
yeah.
guess that's from...
Well, that
on the
any
stove.
sugar in there is caramelised while we're blacking them. So then we can add our tomatoes.
Okay.
Okay, I'll throw those in for you. And we've got our garlic, ginger, cumin, peppers.
So the chipotles are pretty hot, eh? So
Yeah. And we've got a little bit of sauce.
Did you ever see the Italian Job, Michael Caine?
Yeah, I think I've seen it once or twice.
I'll give you my Michael Caine impersonation. About heat for peppers, right?
I told you, you're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off.
What do you think?
Not bad at all. A bit of salt. A little bit of lime juice. We'll give that a whiz. And then when we've done that, we can add a coriander. Forgetful. You can put a little bit in now, and then we'll put the rest in after. And we'll turn her on. Give it a good whiz around. We'll turn it off, have a look inside. Looks lovely, lovely colours.
Okay, fish for today's pickle. Chris, why don't you tell us some bits about that?
Lake fish, wild, more flavour, simple as that. Farm fish, it's not quite the same. So we'll cut one piece here.
Wolfie is really efficient with his portions.
Put that on there. We'll take this piece, cut that in half. We've got 2, and then this piece will be our 3rd.
Great, beautiful.
Okay, we'll put that on there, and she's ready to go.
Good.
Then we put the fish in, flesh side down to start. Get her nice and golden brown before we turn her over and put her in the oven.
So about 3 minutes per side?
About 3 minutes per side. We can do about 3 minutes, roughly, colouring them, turn them over in the oven for about another 3 minutes.
I'm going to go and check on Phil in the front of the restaurant, see if he can identify some of those birds I spotted before he did. When I come back, we're going to put this fabulous meal together. Sounds good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
If we don't get the meal ready soon, Phil will not be amused. Oh.
Okay, fish is sizzling away, potatoes are boiled. Now we're just going to do the last step, wilt the Swiss chard, and then bring it all together. So, Chris, I'm going to take the central stem off the chard
Yes?
and cooking this part of the leafy part.
No, we'll just use the leafy part for this dish.
Okay. Now, what's that? There's a dessert actually in France, isn't there, where they use this chard as a...
Yes, they use it and they salt it off and then they actually crumble up those little amaretti biscuits, which are famous over Italy, and sprinkle them on. It's a sort of savoury dish.
Okay, so these are going to get wilted in the pan
Right,
now?
we're going to put a little olive oil into the pan. We're going to throw in Swiss chard, and we're also going to add a little bit of water just to sort of help the steaming process.
Okay, so you're not going to cook this too long?
No, we're not going to cook it too long at all. Put a little salt and a little bit of pepper on there. And we'll just, all you want to do now is just turn the Swiss chard over in the water and the oil. You can use a little bit of butter if you like. And basically you just try a little bit just to make sure it's not too tough.
Looks fantastic.
We're not far off now.
Yeah.
Just about done. See the way that's wilting now? That's what we want all over. So that's just about ready.
All ready to plate up? That's right. Okay.
Okay, so big spoon. We'll take a few potatoes. On we go with the potatoes. And then we'll take a little bit of Swiss chard. And we'll just put the Swiss chard on top. Now lay the piece of fish right on top of the Swiss chard. Right on top.
Great.
That's it. We'll just move that over, like so. And then a little bit of sauce, Antony. You can do that if you wish. You put a little sauce around, and then we'll finish it off with the lardons bacon.
Oh, it smells great.
That's beautiful. Okay. Okay, now you can finish it off with a few bacon lardons just around the edge. Just around.
There we go. Okay, looks
All right.
fabulous, Chris. Well done.
Well done.
There it is. Wow. Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Oh, it smells fantastic.
Oh, thanks very much.
It's great. Having a wonderful meal at Chris's restaurant is the perfect way to end a day of birdwatching. And it reinforces my belief that great food produces great friendships and great memories. I keep track of each day's events in my farm journal. It's a chronological guide that helps put my organic farm more in tune with the rhythm of nature, and a reminder that we should never take life too seriously.
I'm Antony John on the Manic Organic, a man outstanding in his field.